Welcome to Hoosier Gameday, presented by the Hoosier Network. As always, Ryan Canfield, Liv Clements with you. It is a big week. Indiana, 10-0 for the first time in program history. After a bye, they suit up in Columbus, Ohio, and take on the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. Hoosiers are ranked 5th. So, this is really uncharted territory for Indiana. As a Bloomington native, I've asked everybody all season, but now it's time to ask the Bloomington native, the one that's grown up in this area.
Yes.
What does this mean?
It's huge. It's funny you say Bloomington native because that's so real. That been here for 21 years, and I can finally say I will be going to Ohio State game that IU could possibly win. That has not been true for many, many seasons, but I love to see that potential for IU. It took a huge change in coaching staff with the team, but ultimately I think IU will pull out this one, and what an exciting way to do it,
Yeah, with the biggest stage, big noon Saturday, as many people have been arguing about the whole noon time slot thing, this is prime time. This is everything that you hope for in a season. You play your biggest game on the biggest stage in the highest leverage. It's great for these players. They get to experience it. It's better for the fans that have been yearning for something like this, and it's really exciting. The thing about Ohio State, though, is that, they play these games a couple times a season. Right. This is all new for Indiana. Are these players ready?
Yeah. It's weird because IU has a lot of vets on their team, which we talked about coming from JMU, and they have a lot of transfers, but a lot of the majority of this team actually are all vets and have plenty of years under them. It was interesting. I was by the stadium just a week ago, and you could hear the crowd noise. They're blasting into the stadium while the team is practicing to get that feeling, to know what it's like to not really hear themselves on the field. And I feel like Signetti's taking all those steps forward for the Hoosiers to be ready. There's no way to actually be like, oh, yeah, I'm ready for this game. You just got to go in confident.
Yeah, and I think, it's November 22nd. Tomorrow will be November 23rd when they'll play the game. If you're a freshman, you're basically a sophomore now.
Yeah,
absolutely. You have to grow up, and especially in this high leverage. 10-0 for the first time in program history. You're going on the road to the number 2 team in the country. You got to grow up. Right. And Indiana fans have no reason to believe that this team is going to falter. Never daunted, they cannot falter. But this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a challenge. I think Hoosier Nation is going to be. Just being here. This team's not going to have any participation trophy, right, but just being here is something that this fan base, these players, it's been a long time coming, and I think this is really, really special. And the ESPN playoff predictor says 97% chance right now. So even in a losing effort, the season is nowhere far from over. So
yes,
and I think it's just exciting. It's just exciting.
Michigan was the big reason the hype is here now.
Absolutely, and let's get to that right now. It's been 13 days since Indiana has suited up for a game, and the last time they did that was at home against Michigan, trying to go 10-0. They were already 9-0 for the first time in program history. They are now 10-0. But how did that happen? Let's take you field level to Memorial Stadium. Let's pick it up on the first drive for the Maize and Blue. 3rd and goal. The pocket is going to collapse on Michigan quarterback Davis Warren. The fumble after he tried to throw. This would be the drive killer that keeps Michigan out of the end zone. The fumble will be recovered, and it would set up a 39-yard field goal from Dominic Zavada. With the Hoosier defense's big stop, it's time for the offense to continue that momentum. With the play-action fake to Tyson Lawton, Curtis Rourke was a beauty of a ball with an acrobatic toe tap from Keyshawn Williams. IU is in business on their second drive. 2nd and goal from the 8. Rourke with another perfect ball with a little technique from Omar Cooper Jr. The Hoosiers would find the end zone, take a 7-3 lead. Working on Zeke Berry, Cooper creates the space with a little back shoulder turn. Can't beat that. Look at that technique. 7-3 Indiana. This is where Indiana made its money on defense, pressuring Warren in the lockdown corners. You see Sean Asbury here. More from these guys later as this game will get interesting. Now check this out. On 1st down from the Michigan 36, Rourke is going to throw up a prayer to avoid a Mason Graham sack, and look who's there. Waffle House. Elijah Surratt with a great double move, gets the separation, perfectly placed ball to his favorite target, working on Jair Hill. IU would extend their lead to 11, 14-3. And it looked early as it was going to be one of those days for Curtis Rourke. He hits OCJ over the middle to get all the way down to the Michigan 39. The drive would stall on a 4th and 2 is incompletion. I don't mind the call at all due to the ineptitude of Michigan's offense. Michigan would take over, though, but Indiana would get the ball right back. All these struggles for Michigan would boil down to this play. A quarterback keep from Alex Orji. He gets sandwiched between Jalen Walker and Aiden Fisher, and Indiana would head into the locker room, adding another 3 on a Nicholas Radicic 40-yarder. But here's where things would get interesting. First drive of the second half, Curtis Rourke throws an interception. He's looking for Elijah Surratt. Zeke Berry jumps the route, but yet another quarterback run from 3 yards out. This might work against Michigan State, but not against this IU defense. Zavada would add another 3 and another missed opportunity for Michigan. The Hoosier offense could get nothing going, but the defense had their back. As Michigan would get the ball back, the biggest problem for Michigan would be the run game. And then Dominic Zavada would add another 56-yard bomb, 17-9. Now here's where IU faced some real challenges. Early in the fourth quarter, the offense could seemingly do nothing. This TJ Guy sack would force IU to go scoreless again, their third scoreless possession of the second half. Some poor special teams on this punt from James Evans would get Michigan in great field position and would lead to a do-or-die fourth down touchdown from Kalel Mullings. Michigan gets in the end zone for their first score of the game. The 2-point conversion would fail. The next 3 drives would go IU punt, Michigan punt, IU field goal, and then the final drive of the game would see the Wolverines get stopped short of the marker. Warren finds Peyton O'Leary, but is just a yard short. Michigan turns it over on downs. Indiana downs the ball with a couple knees, and that's it. The Hoosiers 10-0 for the first time in program history. So, Liv, this is really, we talked about the deficit against Michigan State, the anticipation for the Nebraska game. This was the real, adversity, the first real adversity that Indiana has faced all season. What do you make of the performance? I mean, 20 points, their lowest in a game this season. What do you think about this, the aftermath of this game?
Yeah, I feel like the main points is, so like you said, it was a low-scoring game for Michigan and IU, but I think the main thing is because the defense is really produced on each side. I think IU's pressure on Michigan's QB Warren was huge, and the big reason that Michigan was held to all those field goals. Yes, they still got them in field goal range, but you like that more than a touchdown. I feel like Signetti rather just them have 0 points, but it's not a perfect world for Signetti right now. But I will say that the big thing was IU's pressure on defense is always going to be their strong suit. I think offensively they were fine. There's nothing to really complain about with their offense. Yes, they didn't go over 30 points, but it's Michigan. And yes, they're not the best team this year, but they're still a program that their offense and their defense is strong. So I think ultimately it was fine. It wasn't a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis Rourke, I have it in my notes here. Quote, Curtis Rourke was not great for the first time this season. 17-28, 208 yards, and then an interception to Zeke Berry. I think IU got lucky a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Due to the ineptitude of Michigan's offense. I mean, it's just, if any other quarterback, perhaps Bryce Underwood, is the quarterback for Michigan this season, Michigan probably wins this game. They probably win the game, and a couple of those red zone drives turn into 6 rather than 3. But you got to credit the defense. You can only judge this defense or this team and these games on what is in front of you. And Indiana is the better team. Frankly, they're the better coach team, and they got away with it. But one thing that Indiana is going to need to come back from is Michigan did a great job of stopping the run. Awesome. That's probably been their best quality outside of Dominic Zavada has been their task of stopping the run. Yeah. Tyson Lawton was leading rusher, only 55 yards on the ground. If Indiana wants to beat Ohio State, it's got to be better. It's got to be better. Maybe certainly Justice Ellison's going to have to match that and have maybe perhaps a little bit more than 55. But Indiana didn't need anything outside of a couple of those scores. I mean, Indiana won with their effort in the first half. 17-3. Michigan only scores 15. Omar Cooper Jr., Elijah Surratt, they're putting in that work, and it shows because the connection is just it's spot on, just like that. And I think that is really, really good. When we look at championship teams, there's the relationship with the quarterback and the receivers. Yep. They were big time in this game, and then again, I said the defense was you're not going to get marked down for for giving up 15 points to a really, really bad offense in a winning effort. No. But I mean, they're certainly going to find ways to. They're going to be challenged. They're going to be challenged against an offense that can move the sticks. That is not going to have a bunch of Their drives are not going to end in 3. These drives are going to end in 6 on Saturday. So we'll see. And before we get to our next block, you got something new for us?
I have something new. I think the big thing right now that's on everyone's mind is the CFP brackets, because now it's playoff season. Okay, now this is what every team is waiting for. So yes, me and Brian are going to go break down this bracket so you guys can understand what it's looking like and going into the week where is the last one dropping.
All right, with all that Michigan talk out of the way, Tuesday, another shakeup in the college football playoff rankings. Yeah. Indiana at 5. They are the 7 seed due to Boise State and then BYU. So what is the lay of the land with the college football playoff rankings? How does Indiana fit into it? Who could they be seeing on campus or off campus?
Yeah, so it's really interesting how this bracket's going to go down. So the CFP rankings came out on Tuesday, and I want to give a bracket breakdown. I want to start with the first team out. So Tennessee falls to the 13th spot in the bracket because they just lost to Georgia. Another big reason is Boise State is now most likely winning the Mountain West, which puts them to the top. But let's move to the first round, just like you talked about. When we move to the first round, you see that the home advantage will go to OSU, Penn State, Indiana, and Notre Dame, which I think is interesting because the majority of that's Big Ten.
Yeah, and I think, when you have all these great Big Ten teams, you have 4 of the 5, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State. That is just really, really great for, the whole SEC agenda that everyone's fighting over on Twitter right now. I think this is really, really good. But, these are some really, really great matchups. You see Alabama coming up north. All these teams are going to come up north. And BYU, I think, would be a little bit used to the cold, as, Utah, it's kind of cold up there. They would be fine in Columbus weather-wise. But Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, 3 SEC teams coming to South Bend, State College, and Bloomington alike. I think that's really, really great for college football. And, if these matchups could happen and come to fruition, that would be fantastic. But my question to you is, which team on here do you think would give IU the biggest trouble?
That's a good question. I like this Indiana-Ole Miss. I think that's a great opportunity for them because I really do think Indiana could pull out the win against Ole Miss. But going against Texas, that is not a matchup that I feel like Indiana would want. I think Indiana, if they want to see anyone in the quarterfinals, I think it'd be Boise State. I think if they could have a path to Boise State or they could have a path possibly to Miami, I think when you look at the quarterfinals, Oregon most likely is going to be the lock for the Big Ten. Boise State here, it really is up in the air for the Mountain West. Miami, I really feel like also a lock for the ACC. Texas, do you think
the SEC's got a lot still left to prove? There's 2 weeks left. Texas still has to play Texas A&M.
Yeah,
there are a lot.
Do you think you see Texas staying up there for the SEC?
I think so, unless they play Georgia in the SEC championship.
Okay.
Georgia could totally slot in, I think that would be quite interesting.
Next week, the rankings will drop for the last time, which will be really interesting to see where all these teams play out. But it's good to give you a bracket breakdown because some people, they just want their team at number 1, and that's just not how it works.
When we come back, we're going to preview Ohio State. Preview prediction for the biggest game of the season. All right, let's preview this big-time matchup. 5 against 2 in Columbus, noon Eastern, tomorrow, Saturday, November 23rd, Indiana, Ohio State. Now, where this game is going to be won is kind of where the Michigan game was won for Indiana. It's limiting not only big plays, but stranding these red zone drives, creating 6 and moving it down to 3. If you keep Ohio State out of the end zone, and Indiana could match these drives, and it come down to a shared final drive with Indiana's final drive, Ohio State's final drive late in the game. I think whoever, if it's a one-score game or if it's a tie game, throughout the entire game, I think whoever has the ball last is probably going to win this game. Pretty good kickers on both sides, Jaden Fielding, Nicholas Radicic. They can knock it down from anywhere. But what is something big that you're going to be looking for in this game?
I think I'm just going to be looking for how each team is able to adapt. I think the big thing is Ohio State has a lot on the line, and IU does too. And I do think that this game will determine who plays Oregon in the Big Ten Championship. So it's really now, like I already mentioned before, it's really just about the playoffs now. It's win out the rest of your season to get you in a good spot for the playoffs and for the Big Ten Championship. So I feel like for this point for IU, it's just going to be adapting to the weather, adapting to the crowd, showing you can play a big team, improving the IU hasn't played anyone, change that narrative, And Ohio State, it's just going to, for them, it really is just simply, yes, we're Ohio State. Yes, we can still beat Indiana. Because they already feel like the big dog's going in. But don't sleep on IU. But also, IU can't go in overconfident. They can go in confident, though, because that will be key to go into the Buckeyes. But I feel like for this game specifically, it's play a simple game.
And also, I think Ohio State needs this win more. Because Indiana, their playoff predictor is quite high.
Yeah.
But if Ohio State gets a second loss, that eliminates a conference championship berth. That'll probably eliminate any hopes for a first-round bye. Or, I mean, it would, because they wouldn't be a conference champion. And I think that, they could be on the bubble. They could be one of the first couple teams out. I don't think that they would drop 9 spots, but they could create something. For Ohio State, it's going to be about Will Howard. It's going to be the two-headed monster at running back, Quinshon Judkins, Trevion Henderson, and then the youngest phenom that we've seen in a long time, Jeremiah Smith, the true freshman. He is absolutely fantastic. And on defense, they got to get to the quarterback, and the secondary needs to limit the big plays, especially because Jeremiah Smith is going to make some plays. I'm telling you right now, he's going to make some plays that he's not supposed to make. Ooh. Whether it's a one-handed catch or if it's a toe tap, he is going to make Indiana fans mad with a big play in this game. On offense, Curtis Rourke's got to play his game. He's got to make some accurate throws. He's got to get. Justice Ellison and Tyson Lawton have to play a big factor. I said that, they got to double Lawton's total against Michigan. It was 55. Ellison's got to supplement that, and Lawton's got to be over 100 yards. Maybe a couple big scores, but the receivers got to come up big. One of the best players for Ohio State, Caleb Downs. You don't hear about him because he's a safety, but he is an All-American. That's a position where you know he's good because you don't hear about him. So live all that prediction time.
Ooh. Okay, so this is interesting. Is both these teams can score, right? We already know that. Both these teams can play defense. I don't see this game going over 30. I don't. And if you can prove me wrong, prove me wrong. But I don't see this game going over 30. I think it will be such a close game. 21-17. IU comes out with the win.
I think, this is the highest leverage that we've seen any Indiana football team ever play.
100%.
This is arguably the biggest game in Indiana football history, which is crazy. We get to be fortunate enough to be on campus for this, in these chairs, recording some great content for everybody. But, I don't think this game's going to be one with experience, and that's bad news for Ohio State.
Interesting.
But the good news for Ohio State is that, I think they have better athletes. I wouldn't say that they're more well coached. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I have been thinking about this for a long time. But right now, my final score prediction: Ohio State 27, Indiana 24, and that is not across the apocalypse. That is not across the apocalypse. 11-1. I mean, we're not even going to be in here for Purdue. So guaranteeing the bucket game to go for Indiana to be 11-1.
Yeah.
That is an overarching success.
Yeah.
That is going to be a playoff berth. But I think that this game can be won by Indiana. But I just don't see it right now. I don't see it right now, and that's all right.
That's all right. Wilmington Natum has them undefeated, so I'll take it. Okay.
All right. That is it from us. You'll see us after Thanksgiving break. Hopefully, we'll be in these chairs December 6th, December 5th, to preview a Big Ten championship game against Oregon. But for now, we'll see you later.